channels. Feel free, in case you want, you can feel free to, use any of those and tag us there. Now, let me just introduce first with the anchor of the show today. So, as you see, so Shrutika, who is leading the Mumbai team. So she has more than 30 years of experience in technical publication manager, and she has been doing wonders at her workplace, apart from doing multiple other specialty. With TWT, she has been associated, I can say, right from day one, and she has contributed a lot in the growth of the community. So, and in general, Shrutika as a person has been like, a go-to person for what we have seen for almost everyone. People have reached her for different kind of help and also anyway, right now she is anchoring, but outside that, if you want to connect with her, feel free to connect. And so that's about Shrutika. And now our main, the guest of the day, Sheena. So first of all, again, I would like to say thank you to Sheena, and we are very excited to host you. So thank you for joining. Sheena is a content designer at Intuit. Intuit. She has over 2 decades of experience in technical documentation. She has worked on both software and hardware documentation and has led several content strategy as and innovations. And as you can see throughout her career, she has worn several hats. She has been a curriculum developer, content editor, technical writer, quality engineer, content designer, design thinking coach, and content strategist. And this is what this, I'm sure all the people who have registered and who have joined, that's what they want to know. How can they also do the same kind of stuff in their career? Sheena is a poet at heart and has published a poetry collection also. And her collection is available on Amazon Books. So you can go ahead and check out that also. So thank you so much, Sheena, for joining us. And so, Shrutika, over to you. Shrutika, you're
Yeah,
on mute.
I think I pressed the key probably and I went
Yes.
on mute. So I was saying that thank you, Puneet. Thank you for uh, taking up this format of sessions. I feel that it is very important to speak to industry veterans as well as people in general. So that's what this session is going to be about. And welcome everyone. Sit tight. This conversation is going to keep you glued to your seats. I hope so. And for all of you, Sheena has very generously created a giveaway, but for that we'll have to wait till the last question and the Q&A is done. So yeah, let's get started. So Sheena, I also want to thank you today for joining. I know we exchanged a lot of messages, and I am so glad that you didn't even wait for a moment to jump in and say yes, let's do this. So I'm very honored, glad, and super excited to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us today. And just a little bit for our audience today. So, this is an interview, and we have a question answer format. It is an I want to keep it like an open conversation. So, if you have any questions in between while Sheena and I are talking, so, you can raise your hand or put your question in the chat box, and we'll take all of your questions up at the end. All right. So, yeah, Sheena. So all of us, would love to hear about your journey of being a technical writer, then becoming a content designer. But before that, I would like to, understand from you about your various roles. Puneet mentioned a lot of things that you have been doing over 2 decades. So I would like to, hear it from you. How was it? What were your experiences in all these profiles?
Sure. Okay, first up, please don't thank me. For me, it's an opportunity to share my learning, and I love, mentoring people. So it's an absolute pleasure to be here and talking. And thank you, Puneet, for the introduction. Um, okay, so I don't know if I have to be proud that I have done a lot of things, because some people think that you need to be consistent in your career and all that. But I don't believe in that. What I believe in is, as long as you enjoy what you're doing, it's okay if you're doing multiple things. Okay, so that's something that I have learned, and I think it's okay to do multiple things. And again, like how I got into technical writing, again, it was a serendipity. I think a lot of technical writers in my generation did not know that, okay, they're landing into something called technical writing until they knew that, okay, it was technical writing. So that's how even I landed into technical writing. So I've done my bachelor's in chemistry. I wanted to become a scientist and all that, but nothing worked. And then I've always been a writer. Like since childhood, I've always written, and I've always been featured in my school magazines and all that. So writing was always there in my blood. And the first thing that I think, the first opportunity that I got as a writer was as a curriculum developer. So there was a small company, it was a startup then. Now everywhere you turn, you have startups. So it was just a company, a small company, and they were into children's educational software. So they had a lot of things like robotics, computers, and a lot of scientific sort of things. And there were like 4 people, and I was one of the curriculum developers. So what we would do is we would run the software and see. And in those days, it was CDs. Okay, so you had these DVDs. So we would play the DVDs, and then we would see how to navigate. And this was basically for the teachers. So that's how I started, and I didn't even know that that was something related to technical writing. And then after that, I took my journalism diploma in journalism, and I thought, okay, maybe I should try out something. Okay, there's something which is not there in my bio, which is that I was also a journalist for a brief period. So I still contribute, to articles and all that, but that's not mentioned on my resume or so. So after that, I thought maybe journalism was not my area, because a lot of challenges were there, and I wanted to be in a stable job, because I had to give some time for my daughter and all that. And then that's when I got into technical writing. So my first technical writing job was at Huawei. That's one place. Everybody asks me, oh, Huawei, how is it there? Because it's some sort of image that people have about Huawei, but that's where I learned a lot. Because when you're just starting out, and when there's nobody around, you try to learn things on your own, right? And you can't learn better in that way. If you don't have anybody, I think that's the best way that you learn. You figure out things, and then you learn things on your own, and there's no boundary for learning, because you feel it's not enough. So that's the best way to learn. And then, yeah, one after the other, opportunities started coming in. And after some time, like in Huawei itself, I moved on to a technical editing role, because there were a lot of issues with respect to the language and all that, because a lot of content was authored by the Chinese authors, and there were a couple of language issues, and they were looking for cleaning up all those things. And I signed up, because I have this tendency, if I see an opportunity, I do sign up. Okay, so I signed up for it, and I was asked to lead the editorial team, and clean up all the documents. And I love challenges, so I took that up, and I did that, and it was all good. Somewhere again, I felt I wasn't learning much there, because it was mostly editing and all that. And then I again looked for another opportunity. I got into RSA. RSA was another place that I learned a lot, because they had a very structured. RSA is now part of Dell. It was earlier part of EMC, and now since EMC is part of Dell, so it's all in under one. So yeah, long story short, I like whenever I had a jump, it was always because I felt that my learning had stopped. It was nothing else, but whenever I felt that I haven't been able to learn anything, I have always tried to look for an opportunity. So that's the history behind the roles, the different roles that you see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's a very good thing that you mentioned. I think not many people realize that learning is so important when you decide to switch, or when you decide to start working. Learn. I don't know how many of our audiences participants believe this, but I totally agree with you, Sheena. Learning is for me as well. It is the most important part. Um, so when the learning stops, all the other things, the negativity, or the stagnation kind of feeling, that starts building up. So yeah, that's a very good thing that you mentioned. I mean, I have been doing that, but without realizing it. Now that you mentioned it, it clicked that yes, that's what is important.
Yeah.
So I guess that's how you are a content designer now. So your role right now is quite interesting, because still a few years back, honestly, I had just heard about design thinking, UX research, UX writing, but never an umbrella profile which takes everything together. And these things like design thinking, UX research, and there are so many things that a content designer does. So although we know a little bit here and there from reading or from hearsay, or maybe these days people people just ask chat gpt what is content design. Yeah, so how would you explain content design, because I want to understand it from a person who is doing it.
Yes. Okay, so there's a lot of confusion again with respect to the terminology, because content design, and then you also have UX writer. So there's a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
Okay, and again, content design is also considered not just writing or words. It could be any content. Like if you are, if you say, okay, we're working on some content design for a website, it could be words, it could be a video or an animation, anything to do with content. But in our context, and I think that's the reason a lot of content designers who are like writers have an additional tag of UX writer also, just to be just to make it clear that we're not dealing with multimedia or any sort of such content, but it's just words.
Hmm.
So in the context of a UX writer or a writer, content design is a discipline of writing. Maybe, I mean, that's my definition. It's a discipline of writing that uses language or words to enable users navigate a digital interface. So digital is important here because again, UX, when you say UX, that's user experience writer. So that's the definition, not a definition. That's maybe how you can define what a content design role is. So content,
Hmm.
and it's all about UX microcopy and all that. We'll get to it further, but I
Yeah.
think a lot has got to do with content strategy for a content design, and that's why the term content design is, it's like an umbrella term for all that a UX writer does. So I don't know if
Hmm.
I confused you, but yeah, that's the definition of a content designer or content design.
So that does sound like a super profile. So a content designer is not just someone who works with, say, one media, um, uh, or one format of content. It's more like you have to bring to everything together to make your customers, say, happy. At the end of the day, I think that's what matters, that your customers are able to use your products for whatever you are designing, the strategy of content delivery, of all of the deliverables, like the videos, the blogs, or white papers, or even technical documentation. So it does sound like a super profile to me, because so many skills are coming together to form one strategy for the product's success from users perspective. So there are
Yeah.
so many skills that you spoke about, but if you had to name three skills that are absolutely important for being, say, a content designer or a successful content designer, what would those be? I know it's an unfair question probably, because um, it has to be a combination of all three skills, but if you have to advise people about three skills, what would those be?
I think the most important skill would be empathy. because unless you are empathetic towards the user's needs, you will not be able to write good copy. So empathy is a must have
Absolutely.
skill. Of course, good writing skills. And if you have to see, your content as part of a larger whole, you need to have analytical and critical thinking skills also. So I would say these are the three skills. Like, one is empathy, one is writing skills, and analytical and critical thinking skills.
Yeah, wow. That wasn't most when you ask this question to most people, I think most of them would answer, okay, you need to know user research, you need to know UX writing, need to know the guidelines, you need to know the the standards. But this is such a beautiful answer, because without empathy, one cannot understand what your users really need, right? So such a
Exactly.
beautiful answer. Yeah. Apart from these skills, so when you talk about empathy and writing skills and analytical skills, so I feel that writing probably can be learned to some extent. But what about empathy and analytical skills? So analytical skills, I think they can still be a method devised to understand and analyze the situation, the scenarios, your customers personas. But what about empathy? What do you have to say about that? It's not a skill that can be learned.
Exactly. So, see, that's why processes help, okay? And that's why
Hmm.
design thinking is actually at the core of content design. And that's why people, recommend that you know and learn the design process if you want to be a good content designer. Because,
Hmm.
empathy can also be nurtured, it can be grown, but it may not be an innate, capability
Mm,
in you, but it
correct.
can be, honed. So all these processes like design thinking and, user research, okay, user research, all of those are part under design thinking. So let me just tell you, if you can understand how design thinking, process can be implemented, or if you can understand the process, you will automatically learn to be empathetic. So I think that's very key here. I mean,
Hmm.
that's the key point here.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Because I honestly feel that uh, when you are working in a profile where you have to cater to customers, to users needs, empathy must come first. Without that, you will not understand. Even for technical documentation, I feel that you need to be able to visualize your users needs and wants, and then probably uh, take it forward from there. So now that brings me to my next question. You mentioned about understanding the process of design thinking, to understand what are the foundations and how does it work. So do you think or do you recommend people to take up learning these concepts and these uh, uh, things like UX design, design thinking, formally, or do a certification? How important do you think that is?
See, I don't think a certification is necessary, but an understanding is a must. I would say
Mm-hmm.
it's not even a recommendation, but you need to understand how what design thinking is all about in order to, add value to your design process. So
Mm-hmm.
certification may not be necessary. You can just read up. You try to apply design thinking to now for each and every thing that I do. I try to apply design thinking, and it works like magic. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say just read up about it. There are plenty
Mm-hmm.
of courses, free courses
Yeah.
available. I started learning about design thinking from IBM, and they have, I think, two journeys where it's free of cost. You just and they have a beautiful way of presenting it. And on LinkedIn there are like umpteen number of courses on design thinking, and I've also
Yeah.
listed one course on, I think it was on Coursera, which is from Google, which is a very good
Mm.
course. So
Yeah.
understanding, and just understanding is not enough, but try to apply it wherever possible. So only
Mm-hmm.
once you apply, it will be retained in your memory, and then you'll know when to use what in a when you are faced with a challenge. So it's
Mm-hmm.
basically problem solving. Design thinking is nothing but problem
Hmm.
solving in a methodical way.
Right, right. So, so now when you just mentioned that whatever you take up, you apply design thinking to it, and it works like magic. So, how do these opportunities arise? So, not just because you are a content designer now, when you started. So, the I get to hear this a lot from technical writers that no, we don't get this opportunity to do UX writing. So how how to go ahead for such people. As in when where there is a lack of opportunity, some people genuinely do have a lack of opportunity for multiple reasons, like they are so tied up with technical documentation and there's a lot of work, so they hardly get time to explore you know in their work environment where they can practically apply those concepts. So for such people, would taking up a course help so that they can do some exercises and probably create a portfolio kind of thing?
Yeah, again, it all boils down to why you want to do it, okay? Because
Mm-hmm.
whatever you do, there should be an intention or a goal
Correct.
for it, right? Just because something is popular and just because somebody else is doing something, don't go for it. So try to introspect and
Mm-hmm.
understand why you want to do a certain thing. And if you feel that it's really going to add value to your current profile, or maybe you have some profile in mind and you as part of your goal to achieve that, you have to learn this, then go for it. But otherwise, I would say, or you want to apply it to your own life, then go for it. But otherwise, don't
Mm-hmm.
do certifications for the sake of doing it,
Hmm.
because most of the companies
Doing
now,
it
they know
correct.
that there are a number of certifications, right? So they want you to demonstrate that. So even if you go for an interview, they will give you tests, or they will give you questions that will let them know that if you're genuinely
Mm-hmm.
skilled on this as aspect or whatever. So do it only if you want to do it. Don't do it because somebody else is doing. Because I'll just give you an example. There was one point where, when I think even now, API documentation was like very popular, and I thought, okay, I'm losing. I mean, I'm like being left behind and all that. And I thought, okay, maybe let me also try looking up API documentation. And I signed up for some. And so the first thing, another thing that I want to tell you is, don't put money in the certification courses unless you're very sure that you want to do it. So just try out. There are a lot of free options available. And once you're sure that you want to do it, go for it. Okay. So this API course, I just signed up on LinkedIn. It was back then, it was Linda. So I signed up for it, and I think I attended one or two sessions, and I really got bored of it. And I thought that's not my, cup of tea. So I just took my foot away from those from that cold water. So yeah, so certification, to answer your point, go for first ask yourself why you want to do it, and only if it's necessary, or if it's of some help to you, either you as a person, like personal, for personal development, or if it's going to help you in your career, then go for it.
Okay, that makes sense because I have seen, so during the pandemic, I was feeling left out because people were sharing their certifications and courses that they are doing every single day. There was a point when I had stopped looking at LinkedIn just for that reason, because the feeling was so dreadful that okay, I'm being left behind. That people are using the pandemic to for personal growth, for professional growth, and I'm not doing anything out of that.
Yeah,
So yeah, it makes sense to me now when you say that do it only when you have a certain goal in mind. Otherwise, just to stay updated, it's okay to read about it and understand the concepts, and then probably analyze whether you want to move forward or what do you want to do.
exactly.
Yeah, that, yeah, that makes sense. So now we know a little bit about content design, what all is needed to become a content designer. So and of course we know a little bit more than what we knew a few minutes back at 11 o'clock. So I wanted to understand what are the day-to-day things that a content designer does. What are the tasks that are involved in your day?
Okay, so see, this is not like in a chronological order or anything, but maybe
Hmm.
maybe I would say from for an end-to-end project, these are the things that a content designer typically does. And into it again, I'm so fortunate to have joined this company because they like okay now we because I'm also part of into it. So our motto is customer obsession. Okay, so customer obsession is nothing but okay, we try all means to understand what is it that the customer needs, and as part of that, research is like a major part of the work that we do. So research, it's like it starts from secondary research, then the primary research. We have qualitative, quantitative. That's like a whole lot of thing. We won't get into the details of that, but so as a content designer, it's again it's not part of the process, but it will tremendously help if you are part of the research session. So research session, it could be a survey. So when you have a survey, you take a look at the survey questions and you see if as a writer where is it that you can add value to it. So that's one task that a content designer would do. Take a look at the survey questions or take a look at the research brief and see where there are gaps and see if you can add some value to it from the perspective of a writer. And then during the customer sessions, just be attentive, listen to what the customer says, like verbatim. Just listen and make a note of the things. There might be things that you wouldn't have thought about in terms of terminology. Like for example, there was one instance where we were working on a feature called forecasting for I work on QuickBooks. That's a financial platform for small and medium business users. So we were trying to understand what are the needs of customers in terms of forecasting. When we say forecasting, and a lot of customers started talking about something called projection, so which we knew that there was something called projection, but they were using it interchangeably for forecasting. So that's when we understood that, so this is how what the customers understand, users understand about forecasting and projection. So now in my copy when I write, I will try to incorporate these flavors. Okay, I would somewhere I will bring in projection, and somewhere I'll bring in forecasting. So that's one part. So research is a very integral part of content design, and that's one thing that we do. After that, we have so the designers work on the concept, the product, the design concepts and all that. And once after they are once it's in a decent shape, we get in. That is, the content designers get in. And here it's not like okay, you can't get in during the concept stage or nothing like that. It's like free for anybody to contribute. But since usually what happens is in a company, the ratio of a content designer to a designer would be maybe 4:1, maybe, because for every four designers, and this is not a, please don't quote me, it's just a from experience I'm saying. So 4:1, so if there are four designers, there'll be one content writer. So we'll be working on multiple streams, so it's like we won't have the time to participate in all the concept discussions and all that. So but it's always good to know, how the design is shaping up. So once the basic concept is ready, then we get in, and then we come and look at the content. So when we as a content designer, when we look at the design, we don't have to, in fact we should not think only from the perspective of content. We need to see how the content is in the entire design. And we can also suggest changes to the design, because a designer is working on particular feature or a particular stream, but as a content designer we have visibility into the larger scheme of things. So we may be able to tell that okay, fine, I in a similar feature in this stream, this is how it was, so how is it that we're going to bring in consistency, so we can add value there. So that's another thing that we do. We participate in design discussions, we participate in brainstorming sessions and all that. And after that, I like we have a process of coming up with the content and all that, and we have a very good style, what do I say, a design, the a content design system where we can go in and look for inspiration and guidelines and all those things. So that's something, that's another, I mean, as technical writers, I don't have to tell because everybody knows about style guides and all that. So that's another thing that we do. And after that, again, we have to also interact with the product managers, because the product managers are the ones who actually who first come in with the concept idea, and then we all discuss and um, thrash out what is to be done. And after that, we also work with the product development teams, because here again, I had volunteered, again, as part of my curiosity, I had volunteered to do an accessibility audit for the feature. And I learned a lot during that accessibility audit. And so I had to interact with the developer, because they had not taken care of, it's not that they hadn't taken care of, but it was not their priority. So I just did an audit, and we found a couple of issues, and then we sorted those out. So that's another thing, that's another intervention that we work with. And also after that, we also do some sort of content testing. So we do some card sorting and stuff like that, and we do content testing also. So there we might also interact with the marketing team. Now for onboarding, when we create an onboarding flow for a particular feature, we have to interact with the marketing team. So it's like we touch upon all the functions in the product development cycle.
Yeah, so that's a lot of collaboration.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
way lot of collaboration. So so not to draw similarities, but technical writers struggle a bit. Not to demean the profession, but I have experienced this, that technical writers face issues, have trouble in collaboration, and so that hinders the quality of the content that we deliver. But here I see that as a content designer, there is so much of collaboration that you are doing with uh, different stakeholders at different stages of your cycle, project cycle. So do you think that technical writers, it's a reverse question now. So do you think technical writers can also be a little bit of content designers? Because I feel that as technical writers, we should interact with all the people that you mentioned, the product managers, the designers, the developers, and then at the end for with the marketing team as well. So I do that in my company, but I am not sure how many technical writers really get a chance to do that. So do you think that uh, uh, technical writers also are a little bit of content designers?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, so that's when I say, uh, like in terms of the deliverable, maybe
Mhm.
not, because technical writing
Mhm.
is different
Correct.
from
Correct.
UX writing. But in terms of the function and the day-to-day, activities that we do, there is a lot of overlap. Yes, that
Mhm.
is for sure. Because at SAP, when I was working in SAP, I was not just a UX writer. I was also a technical writer. I was a sales writer. I was a marketing writer. I did everything. And I did all of these also. Like I used to interact with I had to interact with the video journalism team, the marketing teams. And I would say, I think we should just go for it. No, we should not say that okay,
True.
we don't get
True.
the opportunity. I don't think
True.
opportunities will come knocking. I think we should go knock at
Absolutely.
that. Yeah,
Absolutely. Some doors may open, some may not, but you
exactly,
won't know unless you knock. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
So that I want to add a little bit here. So you talked about UX writing. So many people mention UX writing so that there's no confusion. So I don't mention UX writing too prominently, but So like you said, you have to knock on doors for opportunities. So for everyone here with us today, this is a very, very, very important thing that Sheena mentioned, I feel, because that's what I did. I went and spoke to my manager that I want to do this. I see these things on the application UI that can be improved. So let me do it once. And then there was no looking back. So now before the product is rolled out, even for testing team, it comes to me for my team for verification. So that's how people, I mean, that's how you know, get opportunities. So that's
Exactly.
a very important thing. So we have to go and take the leap of faith.
Exactly. Yeah,
All right.
because
So
no one is
mhm.
responsible for how you feel but you.
True, true. Absolutely, absolutely. So we spoke a lot about content design, and when I had put up so little bit of background here for everyone else who don't know how this interview came into picture. So I had put up a post on LinkedIn because I have been asked this question very often of late, that what are the career paths? Because I don't think technical writing can be done lifelong. So I need some considerable role and something of a fancy profile. So I used to wonder, what is this fancy profile? So that's when I put out that post on LinkedIn, and I'm fortunate to come in contact with you. So that was the background, people, for the this interview. So that LinkedIn post, that culminated into this interview. So again, knock on doors. I had put up an open question that please connect me with people who have transitioned, so that we can get some answers. So now moving to the transition journey, Sheena, because I think everybody is waiting for the transition journey, to hear about the transition journey. So at what point of your career did you feel, or did you decide that you need to move from technical writing to some other field? I'm not sure whether immediately you knew that you wanted to be a content designer. So what when did that happen? Was it something that happened organically? I know you spoke about it, but was it a measured step, or it happened organically?
No, it was not like an aha moment and then one day I woke up to become a content designer. No, definitely not. But
True.
like I mentioned earlier, I always liked, and I still do. I like to push my boundaries. I don't like to set limits. To what I can do. So I tried to explore things. Like when I was in McAfee, we had this side gig or side project where we would explore into what is happening in the technical writing world. We had formed a task force and we wanted to know what's trending in technical writing, and then we got into we zeroed down on writing for chatbots, because at that time it was like, I think 5 years ago, chatbots was like a big thing. So we did a lot of research, because that kept me motivated, because I was a technical editor in McAfee, and it was not it was like a routine mundane task, editing and all that. So I needed something to keep me inspired. So that's when this came, that is conversational writing. So when we did that presentation, and we had presented, my colleague and I, we presented at the STC session, writing for chatbots. And when I started working on the presentation for that, I was like totally lost. I didn't know how to get started. And then I was looking for inspiration. And then that's when I came across design thinking. And I just took one, small course on design thinking. And then I somehow magically, the presentation just came into, shape. And I started getting interested in design thinking. And yeah, again, I joined SAP for other reasons, not because, okay, I knew SAP was into design thinking and all that. But I think one thing, at the core of all these things was my intention. And I would say, okay, I'm getting a little philosophical here. If you have an intention in your mind, I think things like will fall into place. Okay, so that's when things fell into place. I joined SAP, and SAP is one of the pioneers in design thinking, and they also, for them, philosophy, design thinking is at the core of their philosophy. So when I got into SAP, I again moved to the design team. We were the one of the first few teams to be under, that is the writers to be under the design team. And I owe everything that I know about design now to those designers, the like such wonderful people who helped me understand. I was so intrigued by this whole process of design, and I knew that okay, this is something that I want to continue doing. So that's maybe the moment that I decided that okay, I need to
Mhm.
chart out a plan in order to achieve all this. So that's when I started learning things, because I knew okay, understanding research methodologies is important. So I had a plan for understanding, learning research. I asked my manager if I can sign in, and then there were a lot of resource crunches, and she said okay, you can do it as a stretch goal. I said yes, I can do it as a stretch goal, let me do it as a stretch goal. So all of the learnings that I did were stretch goals. And I've been able to you know productize, I don't know, productize is the right word. I've been able to add value to my team as well as me as a person. Like professionally also, I was able to add value to my resume because I just took those up. So it was not organic, sorry, it was an organic transition into this. And but after that, I had a plan, I had a plan to
Mhm.
achieve those goals. Yeah.
Yeah. So, uh, when you speak about stretch goals, it again boils down to stretch goals and intention. It again boils down to the thing that we just talked, that we have to take initiative. Yeah, so
Yes.
to get ahead. So transitioning, I feel transitioning to anything, it's not just from one profile to another, from say one say you are a technical writer today, you become a senior technical writer maybe in 2 years down the line. So intention and uh, motivation and everything, so that you mentioned. So without, I personally feel that apart from what you do in your day to day job, there has to be intention to work on your stretch goals as well. Without that, I feel that we'll end up saying no, we didn't get the opportunity, or no, we didn't get the time. So yeah, so a little more from you. I want to understand a little more from you. When you mentioned about creating a plan once you knew that okay, you want to proceed in this direction. So I wanted to understand: did you like sit down and chalked out a path for say next 5 years? So we get this question in interviews, right? That where do you see yourself in next 5 years? So did you do something like that?
I didn't have a 5-year plan, but I did have a I did have a plan for. So what I usually do is, again, that's why I keep chanting about design thinking, because it you can apply it for anything and everything. Okay, so what I did was, at that time I looked for, this is something, it's kind of cheating, I don't know if I can say, but I used to look for job descriptions for content designers and UX writers on maybe LinkedIn or Naukri.com, and I would look for the features. I mean, not features, the qualifications or the kind of the skills they are looking for, and then I would just make a note of those skills, because like it was fairly new, right? UX writing,
Correct.
and
Yeah.
even internationally, I think it's fairly new. So I would and I had signed up to a lot of these newsletters. One is called content UX Content Collective. They have lovely articles on the journey of UX writing and everything. And then there's something called UX Writing Hub. So I had signed up to a lot of newsletters, and I keep getting those newsletters and all that. So I would just pick out the keywords and things that are essential for a UX writer, and then I would make a list of that and see where I lack, and then I try to look for. So again, I have not paid a single rupee, I think, for the courses that I'm not encouraging people to do that, but I was fortunate that I had the time to, learn, and on the job I had the opportunity to demonstrate those things on the job. But of course certification courses help if you want to accelerate your transition, so that definitely helps. And again, design thinking also, I was fortunate because I didn't have to pay, because SAP was paying it. I mean, my org sponsored that. So in that way, I was fortunate in a lot of terms. And sorry, what was the question? What am I getting at?
I was asking you about your plan. I asked
Yes.
whether you had a plan for 5 years.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So then, so first, I would recommend everybody, what you should need to do is, you need to do a self assessment of where you stand today. Okay. So once you know where you stand and what is the
Mhm.
gap that you see in order to achieve, so you have an intention, you do an assessment, and then you see where the gap is, and then try to have a methodical way of doing that. I think if you can keep aside at least 1 hour in a week, that will be more than enough
Exactly.
to acquire a new skill in a week. Just
A
one
new
hour,
skill.
if you just count the number of breaks that you take or number of chats that you do. I'm not saying you should not do all of that, but I'm saying you can still afford to keep aside 1 hour. Yeah,
True.
so that's how I
Absolutely.
plan it. Yeah.
Hmm. Absolutely. So, yeah, you mentioned a very interesting thing about, not having to spend, huge amounts of money for, learning this. So, I get this a lot when I recommend people some courses. I get this a lot that no, this is so expensive. So, see, I want to understand your take on it. So I also know that there's a lot of information available. There are a lot of resources. And like you said, if you have the time, motivation, and the intention, I believe that you won't have to spend a bomb to, learn a new skill. But for people who want it like quick, so, what is your take on spending getting certified or getting acquiring some skill?
Yeah. So again, it comes down to the same point that I mentioned earlier, that if you're convinced that you need this, it's going to add value, then I think certifications definitely help. And again, you need to see, who is the certifying authority, because that's also very important.
Correct.
Because now even for like design, there are like a lot of design boot camps and everything. Every other person is offering a design course. So it could be a person, somebody who is well known, or somebody who has proven himself or herself in a particular field. If it comes
Mhm.
from such people, credible people, then I think you should go for it. Because the reason I'm saying this, see, I learned it the hard way, but now I know, how things work. So I exactly know what you need to do to do these things. So okay, I'm not saying that I'm somebody who is suitable of giving a workshop, but then I would definitely say yes, I can give, or I can vouch for certain things. I know what works, what doesn't work. And one another thing about UX writing, what I've seen is a lot of these certifications are quite expensive. They're coming up to like lakhs, like 3 lakhs and all that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, which I feel is a little unreasonable, because writers in India are not paid as much as people abroad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, I don't know if personally we will be willing. Okay, if the company is ready to sponsor, then I'm thinking people will
Hmm.
be willing to take up those certifications. But otherwise, yeah, even in Udemy, there are reasonable courses that you can take to
Hmm.
hone your skills. But certifications do help, but I would say they're not like a must. If you
Hmm.
and okay, another caveat here is that if you are in a company and if you are already performing that role, then I think certification is just a frill. That's all.
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. So I have been in this situation, Sheena, a few years back, say 7, 8 years back. I wasn't being paid as much to, be able to afford a course that takes even 50,000, right? So I took the, like you said, the hard way and learned it. And then by the time I had started applying it at my job, I felt that, okay, now it doesn't make sense because I already have the hands-on experience. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's how it I feel that you have to decide what, like you said, what is really important.
Yes, yes. It's very contextual and it's subjective
Yeah,
again. It differs from people to people.
correct, absolutely. So after all this discussion about learning and certification and the path, how to plan out a path, the one of the biggest challenges that I have heard, and even I felt that at some point in my career, stepping out of your comfort zone. So say I am a technical writer and then transitioning to something different, even if it is very much nearby my current job, current profile. So stepping out of the comfort zone is the toughest challenge that most people face, and until there's that moment when they take that leap of faith. So, what was the challenge that? What was, if you have to name it, what was the toughest challenge that you faced in your transition journey?
Um, Toughest one was, yeah, of course, balancing my work and my
Mm-hmm.
aspiration to become like a, good at content design. That was challenging. But I think if you have the conviction that this is what you want to do, and if you have a conversation with your manager that this is what you want to do, have a conversation with your manager and chart out a plan, because there's something called professional development and personal development, right? So you can have
Correct.
20% of your time towards your personal development, and then see if what you are aspiring to is not part of your current role, then keep aside 20%. Otherwise, if it's part of your current
Mm-hmm.
role and it's just going to get you to the next level, try to apply whatever you learn in your daily job, because that becomes less taxing it doesn't eat on your productive hours. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
a challenge while transitioning was, like I mentioned, everything was a stretch goal. It didn't come easy. So yeah, so that was one challenge. But then fortunate that my I had a very good manager who supported me in these all these learning streams and all that. And I also okay, again, one more thing. I used to look for opportunities, and I kept my manager informed that, okay, this is what I want to know. So she used to keep her eyes and ears open for opportunities for me. So again, it comes down to the point that you need to voice out, what you want. Don't hesitate to have that
Mm-hmm.
conversation with your manager of anybody. It need not be
Mm-hmm.
somebody from your department also. And another thing I would say is, we had a something called career sprint in Intuit last week, and we had a very good conversation with a lady. I forgot her name. I had a post on this on LinkedIn. Okay, so she talks about reinventing yourself. So reinventing,
Okay.
yeah. And so what I would say is, I would recommend you to build on your current strengths and not to completely, have a totally different version of yourself, because
Mm-hmm.
um, maybe I'm contradicting what I'm saying, but it takes now. See, for me, I've been a writer for so many years, and now if I get into design, for me, design in the sense not content design, but user experience design or UI design. For me, it's like starting from scratch, right? So all these years that I have
Correct.
put in become worthless. So I'm starting now. Even this content design, it is a risk that I have taken, because like I had opportunities to become a technical writer, writing manager, or technical writing architect or content strategist and all that. But I somehow felt that that was not what was meant for me. I always loved strategy, content strategy, and that's why I took up this. And now here I'm a senior content designer, and I'm okay with that. So you need to be sure that this is what is
Sure.
going to make you happy. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it is a risk that we need to evaluate whether it's worth taking or not. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So Yeah, so my timekeeper is buzzing me now. So yeah, without spending too much time, let's go ahead. I have a few more interesting questions for you, Sheena. So the most awaited question, that how did being a technical writer for so many years impact your journey as a content designer? How did it help? Did it help being a technical writer? Was it easy? Did it make it easy for you in some situations? Or rather, it's a very broad question actually. So how does being a technical writer help in transitioning to content design? Did it or not?
Honestly, I would say, I mean, this is not to demotivate anybody, but yes, being a writer definitely helps because you know how to communicate, you know how to communicate technical stuff, but you will still have to start from scratch. Okay.
Scratch, yeah.
Yes, you will have to start from scratch because design is a totally different paradigm, and there have been a lot of things that I had to unlearn as a technical writer to think as a content designer. So there's a lot of unlearning also that you need to do if you have to become transition from tech writing to content design. So that said, not to what invalidate our experience as a technical writer, but that definitely helps because we can we have learned about personas, scenarios, task based writing, or user centered writing and all that. So those things will definitely help, but you should be prepared to unlearn certain things also and learn a whole lot of things.
Whole lot of things. Yeah, so unlearning is particularly difficult. Learning, I feel that learning is easy, but unlearning is not. So tell us at least one thing that you had to unlearn while we move to content design.
Yeah, one
If you
is.
can, at the top of your head.
Yeah, I think one thing is to be less preachy. We, as
Mm-hmm.
that's something that is a total no for a content designer because we are not here to sell the product. We are here to enable the user navigate through the product. So as much as possible, recently I was working on the onboarding flow, and we had something called a guided tour. Okay, so in the so it was a new feature and we had to introduce this guided tour, and I was so excited to see the guided tour because as tech writers we do we like to help people use the product, right? And I
Yeah.
had given a couple of guided tips and guided tour for this feature, that feature, and all that, and then this had to go to the marketing team for a review, and the marketing team saw it and they were like, why do we have these things? I mean, it's so intrusive to the product experience. We should not have these guided tours here. And that's when I realized, yes, because I was still thinking from a technical writing perspective,
Mm-hmm.
I want to help the user. But the idea of a good design is that the design should be that intuitive that they shouldn't need help or an additional support in
True.
order to perform a particular task. So that was something that I remember, that happened recently. So I now try not to be preachy wherever I can.
Yeah, that's a very interesting take. So now that you said it, I realized it. Yes, I am a technical writer and I do it often. So so yeah, being preachy is one thing that technical writers or tech com professionals tend to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
so true. So you mentioned about unlearning things, but continued learning is also important, I feel. So especially in fields like content design, where there is so much being updated every day you get to know that some research is being done, there are some research results being published, there is so much information and education and new courses coming up, new terminologies coming up. So how does one filter out the noise and pick the correct learning path and continue to learn? Because I feel that it is important to keep learning.
Yeah, I would say we should. not overdo it. Okay, I think the key
Mm-hmm.
is not to overdo it. Maybe sign up now for example, if you are a UX writer and you want to know about things that are happening in the UX community, sign up to maybe a maximum of 3 groups. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
maybe sign up for newsletters from the pioneers in this field. Like I would say pioneers, I would say UX Content Collective. They are very good at. They have a
Mm-hmm.
focused community for UX writing, and they have very well written articles. And then the UX Writing Hub is also
True.
good. So these are the
True.
things. Then networking. So networking with the right set of people. And again, I would say, don't diversify yourself too much that you get lost in, a lot of things. Because at one point I did this. Okay, I did all this, and then I realized that it's not helping me, because I used to sign up to every other newsletter because I just wanted to get all the information. And then I realized I'm not even looking at those newsletters. Then I just boiled down to maybe one or two people who I religiously follow, and then I keep myself up to date about things. Now again, now there's a lot of talk about chat gpt and all that, right? So now people are trying to, and again, in our company also we use something, the tool called writer. It's an AI tool. So we use that to generate ideas, inspiration and all. So
Mm-hmm.
now a lot of people are trying to learn to write prompts in order to get the correct responses from. So that's another area now people are getting into. But yes, you need to
True.
keep yourself up to date about what's happening, but don't overdo it. Just find, okay, maybe okay, 3 must be very conservative. Okay, let's keep it as 5. 5 is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sign up to 5 groups or 5 communities, and then see, always be in the know of what's happening in your field. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, uh, whatever you are saying, I can relate to it so much because I was at that stage. I mentioned earlier, like, right during the pandemic, people were just learning so many things, and I was feeling left out. So the result of that feeling was signing up for any and every newsletter that you come across. And then a couple of months back, I unsubscribed because it was overwhelming for
Yes.
me, and I was still not moving forward.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I was just reading and reading and reading, and most of the times, I was not even opening those newsletters, so it was just cluttered in my inbox.
Yeah.
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 All right. So, we covered a lot. I think I didn't expect to be able to, cover so much, but I have just a few trick questions. Actually, two trick questions. I know, we cannot have favorites at work, but if you have to talk about, what excites you the most about your work, what would that be?
Uh, right now, I think the feeling of, or the realization that I'm contributing to, the user experience. I think that's something that I really enjoy, because firsthand, because again, it's an age old technical writing story that nobody reads our documents, and
Yeah,
who are we
true.
writing for and all that. So that's always been there. That anxiety has always been there. But right now I feel so excited because I know that, okay, once the product is out, my content will be the first one to be read. So that's something that excites me, and also the opportunities that I get to learn, as always.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We started with this, at how important learning is to stay in a profile or a job. So yeah, so that's what I think that's the most concise answer I have ever heard about what excites you most about your work. And yeah, I feel that maybe most of our audiences will relate to this, that there has to be something that should excite you about your job. It can be probably helping the QA team find bugs. Technical writers do that often. Yeah. So it can be anything simple, but yeah, there must be something that excites. that should excite us about our work. So, next trick question that I have is, if you have the liberty to speak about it, what is the most interesting say project or piece that you worked on as a content designer? If you are at the liberty to talk
Yeah,
about it.
yeah, I can talk about it, but I don't know if we have enough time. That's all.
Yeah.
But yes, there have been a lot of interesting projects. One, I would say, one project which gave me a lot of opportunity to apply my learnings was back in again SAP. We had, I think I have put it in my portfolio also, like how the process I
Hmm.
followed and all that. So I'll make it brief. If you like, if anybody
Yeah.
would like to take a look at it, you can check out that. So it's again like. There was these conventional documents that were written in that was in the PDF format, and it was for
Hmm.
a business a product area called content business network. Okay, business, I forgot. Okay, what it was. I think it was, yeah, business network. And it was nothing but preset templates for using certain visualization. So that's the gist of it. And so this document had instructions on how to create those and how to use those templates. But it was like in PDF format, and it was all over the place. It was not at all, comprehensible and all that. So when I saw that, I thought maybe this is an opportunity to clean up stuff. And I took that
Hmm.
as a content strategy a task, and applied again design thinking to that. And then we transitioned that into data, so into the XML based workflow, and we transitioned that into the help portal. So what was exciting about this is this is the first time, and again, I did not know that I was doing content design then, because okay, for me it was like, okay, it was as part of my job, right? And now when I come to into it, and I, in hindsight, I think that these were the exactly these were exactly the processes that I followed back then. Because here things are more structured, okay. And so I did research. I talked to the product managers, the program managers, and then understood why we have this particular set of templates. And then we had a survey sent out to a couple of customers, and then we did a we did a something called an audit, content audit, to look at the existing content and all that. So it was like an end to end content strategy, um, uh,
Hmm.
yeah, project, which was like again opened doors for a lot of more learnings. So that was very exciting. And eventually it all turned out to be well. And still, I mean, there every time, again, another thing that we all as technical writers know is that you come revisit your topic, you feel it can be improved, right? So
Hmm.
we have that imposter syndrome that, okay, we're not doing the
True.
best.
Yeah, true. Very true.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I still feel there's a lot of room for improvement. And then now recently I also worked on an onboarding flow. That is also a very beautiful process. That's again end to end content strategy, where we had research, we had synthesis, like for all the research findings, we had ideation, we had definition, ideation, then prototyping, and eventually the design. So that was like an entire process. Again,
Mhm.
content strategy. So these are the two things that on the top of my mind that I can. It's actually,
Mm.
I've just summarized it like this. It's because of time
Yeah,
constraint.
yeah, time constraint. Yeah, we are already over time, but
Yeah.
this conversation is so fascinating that I feel that we can go on and on. But yeah, we have a limitation of time today. So yeah, that's about it, Sheena. So I am so fascinated that I'm going to go back and start my learning journey again, which had taken a back seat for multiple reasons at my company. So, but yeah, if it has inspired even one person like me, so I feel that yeah, this was a very successful interview. I feel, and so there are just two questions, Sheena, if it's okay with you.
Yeah, yeah, I'm okay. I mean, I don't have
Okay, all
anything
right.
else.
Okay, all right. So Jaideep asks that do you recommend specific design thinking courses that are created with tech writing in mind?
No.
Okay.
Um I don't,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not think, no. You don't have to look for
Mm-hmm.
courses specifically for tech writing, because design thinking can be applied to any field.
Anything.
Yeah.
True, true, true. Yeah, all right. And then Shalaka Patil has a question, but I think it's not related to today's topic. So she asks about challenges that can be that a person can might face while switching from hardware documentation to software documentation.
Okay.
So
You want me to answer that?
if someone can answer, if anybody has an answer to that, because I think that is off topic for today's discussion. So Jaideep has raised his hand. Jaideep, you can unmute yourself and quickly ask or add if you have to add something.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I have a couple of questions. One is the first one is, do you see a shift in tech writing where the writer now only needs to cover what is not obvious on the UI? That is one. The second one is, do you have an experience in designing content for a CLI product? And if yes, any suggestions on related to content design on that? And lastly, how do you convince that what you do is going to add value to the organization?
Okay, so
Okay.
that's quite a lot of questions actually. So
You can take whatever you suits the time.
yeah,
Okay.
Sheena,
You can choose,
um,
you can choose whichever to answer.
Okay, maybe I can choose the last two. One is I don't have experience designing content for CLI based applications, but I think any content strategy would work for it. Like, who's the end user? Just apply a few rules, like who is this interface intended for? What are their needs? And what is it that you are providing? So I think with these you will be able to easily work out a strategy for content for a CLI based thing. And that's why I said design thinking can be applied to anything, so it can be applied to this also. Then value, how do you convince? I don't know if you have to convince somebody about the value that you bring in. So again, Jaideep, like if you could get to some more details about that question, like convince a value of like to the management, or to whom are you referring to?
My point is that you take this, you see that a change in content strategy would add some value or maybe resolve some problems. So, how basically this is a point where maybe that idea is not there in your organization at all, or nobody has thought about it. Then
Okay.
the next question comes is, okay, if you do it, how is it going to benefit? That's my point.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, yeah, a very valid question, and it's a very valid use case also, because a lot of companies don't realize the value of good design. So that's an absolutely relevant question. I think for any management to buy in, there should be a cost associated with it. And if you have to bring in cost, you have to implement something. So it's a tough bargain here. How is it that you can convince? So one thing that I would do is, if it's a graphical, if it's a web based application, if you can get a team to redesign it, just like a fun project, you try redesigning an interface or a workflow. And because for the management, they don't like to hear, they need to see things, to be convinced enough to take it up. So if you can demonstrate that, okay, this is the kind of value that you're bringing, what are the things, value, or what are the benefits that you see from this workflow, I think that's the only way Otherwise, your product should be like falling down in terms of revenue and all that. And if you can attribute it to poor design, then yes. But there are a lot of tools, analytical tools right now that are available that you can run through the design. I mean, run through the application and see the the click rate, the retention rate, and all those things. So analytics can be used, but if you have to show a comparison between good design and bad design, you need to have a good design as well. And if you need to compare or you run analytics to it, you need users for it. So it's like a tough game there. So do and show. Sorry, show and don't tell. Yeah, that's the motto.
Yeah. I hope Jaideep that helps you. And so Sheena has something for you guys. So Jaideep, read what we are going to share with you, because Sheena has answered a lot of questions in that as well. So for a moment, let me share my screen. Mm,
And
is
meanwhile,
my
thank you,
screen
Sheena.
visible?
Thank you.
No
Thank you both.
problem.
It was a very nice interview and very enlightening. Thank you.
I'm glad it
Thank you
was
so
so
much.
sweet.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So what you see on my screen is an ebook that Sheena has created about her journey, and she has answered a lot of things here. And I read it the moment I got my hands on it. I've gone through it, and I'm sure that although we had a conversational format today, there it was a lot of information. So please do give this a read. This you will receive this in your inboxes after the session. So yeah, do give it a read, and you will have this like a ready reference with you for any one of you who are interested in transitioning to being from a technical writer to a content designer. So yeah, that's with this we come to an end. Sheena, if you have any last thoughts to add, and uh, then probably we can let you go. We don't want to hold you.
No, 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 no. It was absolutely, a wonderful experience for me. Where I think this is one of the first forums where I'm sharing my learning journey and my career journey. So thank you for the opportunity, and thanks to everyone. And if anybody needs any help in with respect to creating a portfolio or anything, you can just email me. I've given my email in that booklet. So I will try to find time and help you out with it.